Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. Here on the channel we do deck techs, tune-ups, deck building advice, and podcasts with cool people. If you like what we do, you can subscribe to see more. Or if you want, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/cmdrmechanic. All patrons get one-on-one advice with me, as well as exclusive content. This week in the workshop, we're looking at an anonymous patron's shell around the new Beledros Witherbloom out of Strixhaven. The patron writes, "Hi Chris, thanks for all the deck building help on your channel. It has really helped me become a better Magic player. I pulled an extended art Beledros Witherbloom from Strixhaven and wanted to build a deck around it. I want to include all of the upkeep token makers ideally. Let's keep it more on the casual side and not include any individual cards over $50. Ooh, very interesting build idea. Generate tokens on each upkeep so we can do more with them. Use them as resources or just attack. I like it, and you've given me a lot of room for flexibility." Now this patron only provided me with a few cards that must be included, so let's take a look. First up is our commander, Beledros Witherbloom. Beledros is a 7-mana 4/4 flying Elder Dragon. In addition to creating a pest on each upkeep, they have the ability to pay 10 life, only once per turn, to untap all lands you control. This gives us a great starting point. We can do some shenanigans with paying life to untap lands, so we'll want to include a lot of land-based ramp and life gain to offset the cost. Abilities that double the mana from lands would also be beneficial here. But if we play into creating these pest tokens, then we'll really want to be able to sacrifice them on demand to gain life from them. They make great chump blockers, that is, blockers that we can put in front of an attack knowing that they'll die, but if we can control when they die, they're even more valuable to us. I've also been asked to include Verdant Force, Tendershoot Dryad, and Wolverine Riders. These 3 green creatures, at 5, 6, and 7 mana respectively, all have a similar ability, making creatures at the beginning of each upkeep. While Verdant Force is the biggest threat on their own, the other 2 pack additional benefits. Tendershoot Dryad can act as a super anthem for saprolings, and Wolverine Riders can gain you life whenever another elf enters the battlefield. A lot of diverse benefits. But based on these 3 and our commander, we likely aren't going to have a unified tribal strategy. Pests, saprolings, and elves all make for a diverse mix of creatures and prevents us from going all in on just one creature type. I have also been asked to work in Verdant Embrace out of Jumpstart, a kind of make-your-own Verdant Force aura. This is another generator of saproling tokens, but having 3 in the deck still doesn't give us a unified tribal leaning. The last card I've been asked to ensure I include is Ophiomancer. This 3-mana black human shaman makes a snake with Death Touch on each upkeep, provided you control no other snakes. That's an interesting hoop to jump through. Essentially, the snake will refresh itself if you sacrifice the last one, if it's shed its previous skin, if you will. So, on-demand sacrifice effects are even more relevant now. That gives us quite a few options. We can build the deck around tokens specifically, taking advantage of Enter the Battlefield effects. Since we'll be getting these Enter the Battlefield effect triggers on everyone's turn, it means we can increase their usefulness significantly. We can build the deck like a traditional Aristocrats deck, generating these tokens for little more than sacrifice fodders for on-death triggers. Or we can go a more loosely theme-based route and build around upkeep triggers specifically, jamming the deck with anything that triggers on ours or each upkeep. You know, I'm in favor of building around upkeep triggers, but with secondary elements of Enter the Battlefield effects and sacrifice effects. It means we'll want to include cards like Baleful Force and Feast on the Fallen, and maybe even some of the better werewolves, since they can flip during each upkeep. Now, we'll want plenty of effects that trigger in just our upkeep as well. There's not enough effects that trigger in each upkeep to build an entire deck around. I'd look to include Awakening Zone, Bio-Waste Blob, and Dreadhorde Invasion, to name a few. These are some token generators to be included at the very least. I would love to include Bitter Blossom as well, but alas, it exceeds the requested budget restrictions. Dreadhorde Invasion will have to do as a budget alternative. Cheville, Bane of Monsters, out of Ikoria, would make for a decent include in the deck, giving you a trigger to put a bounty counter on a creature an opponent controls. If we include waste in the deck to ensure we're dealing with those creatures, it makes for even more value. The new court enchantments, Court of Ambition and Court of Bounty, are excellent includes. Not only do they introduce the Monarch to the game, which is always appreciated, but because the army of creatures we'll be creating each upkeep can insulate ourselves from attackers and hang on to that Monarch for a full turn cycle, making these benefits even better. Now, I would ensure we include Creekwood Liege. Not only does it make us a token on our upkeep, but also works to ensure that we pump our creatures. The worms it creates and the pests that Beledros creates, along with any of our black and green creatures, get +2/+2 from this horror. Fortunately, recent price drops have ensured we can include big card advantage spells like Dark Confidant in the list, since at the time of this recording it's below $50. Similarly, Dark Tutelage can be included despite us having a few higher CMC cards in the list, and the new Keen Duelist from C21 can function much the same way and help bring an opponent down a little bit too. This will be a big part of our card advantage package in the deck, ensuring we don't run out of gas. Combine these 3 cards with Miri's Guile and we can help ensure we're taking as little damage as possible in our upkeeps when flipping. It's a shame that Sylvan Library and Sensei's Divining Top don't fall within our budget criteria, as both can be big helps when reorganizing the top of our deck. I would consider them upgrades. For sack outlets and ways we want to use the tokens we're creating, we can rely on some more traditional means. Ashnod's Altar and Altar of Dementia, as unfortunately Phyrexian Altar falls outside of our budget range. Instead, I would include things like Perilous Forays. This enchantment lets us turn our creatures into lands for just 1 mana each, and is a way to sync Beledros' activated ability into a permanent benefit later on. Excellent for helping us set up a late game win. Blasting Station is another great method of using our tokens. Our triggers will untap it, meaning we can respond to each by sacrificing a token. An excellent method of turning some of our creatures into reach, and ensuring that we're getting a targeted impact tremors. Priest of Forgotten Gods, Sadistic Hypnotist, and Spawning Pit all make for excellent on-demand sack outlets too, either turning them into multiple resources, stripping our opponents of resources, or creating more creature tokens further down the road. All things we want to do in this deck. Before we get too far ahead into this build, I wanted to remind everyone that if you want to order any cards from Strixhaven or C21, check out our affiliates. Our Canadian affiliate Harry Tarantula, where you can use the code CMDR Space Mechanic at checkout, or our TCG Player affiliate link for our international audience. Links to both are in the description below. Now, if we really wanted to get nasty with this build, and this depends on your play group, we could include Contamination in the deck. At the time of recording, it is just barely within our budget constraints. With our renewing source of creatures to sacrifice, it could essentially lock all non-black playing opponents out of the game, making lands useless to create mana, and making sure that they can only rely on artifact mana to create their colors. This is a strategy that cripples most opponents, so use at your discretion. For ramp, let's make sure to stay on theme. Upkeep triggers. There's a new card out of C21 called Tempting Contract that makes treasure tokens on your upkeep, if your opponents do, of course. A great way to get ahead with a bit of a political leaning. For land ramp, or at least land consistency, we can include something like Elfheim's Sanctuary. This lets us skip our draw step in favor of finding a land, but we have multiple ways of supplementing our draw with other means of card advantage. Into the Wilds is a bit of a better option here, allowing us to reveal the top card of our library and put it into play if it's a land. We'll be revealing the top card of our library to a number of different options already, so this isn't losing any advantage. We have everything to gain. We will be including some of the standard land-based ramp here. Rampant Growth, 3 Visits, and Nature's Lore to ensure we have enough in play to take advantage of Beledros' activated ability. But what are we planning to do with these lands? Well, I would like to power out X spells to try and win the game. We don't often use Beledros' ability, but if we do want to, we want to ensure it's a game ender. Losing 10 life is nothing to shrug at, even if we'll be gaining some life along the way. So, all-stars like Torment of Hailfire and Exsanguinate should make the list, as well as Dread Summons, to potentially mill our opponents out and make an army of zombies to attack with or sacrifice. All great ways to wind down a game. So here is our list. Take a look and let me know in the comments below what you think and what you would include. It is no doubt an interesting deck with an atypical curve. Very low at 3 casting cost, but very high at 2 and 4. That's good because we've included most of our ramp at 2 mana, allowing us to skip the 3 casting cost spot entirely. A keepable hand in this deck is 2 to 3 lands, a 2 mana rock or ramp, and anything castable beyond that. Pretty versatile. Our game plan is to get incremental value on each player's turn. With even one of our every upkeep triggers in play, we can untap with an additional 3 bodies ready to attack. Beledros gives us great endgame potential with the ability to untap our lands, and we've included enough to recoup that loss of life along the way, and one-shot our opponents with X casting cost spells. I really hope everybody has enjoyed what we've put together here today. And for our anonymous patron, if you don't want to remain anonymous, do let us know what you think of the build in the comments below. For everyone else, I'm looking forward to your feedback on what you think of this list. And until next time, folks, good luck and have fun. As always, a special thanks to all of our patrons, without whom this would not be possible. A big shout out goes to our Lodestone Golems, Ben Frayne, Sterling Lankford, Will Briggs, Ben Davis, David Neri, Corey Whitaker, and Snipes. And especially our premium patrons are Metalwork Colossi, Austin Charlotte, Charles Olson, Matthew Chandler, Ben Shackelford, Pulsating Kiwi, Jim, Raphael Lum, Wyatt M, and Timothy Conan. Thank you, all of you. You make this possible.